Lord Monkton, finishing up on the situation in Paris, millions of Islamists coming in from areas just chock full of suicide bombers and radicals. We've already seen military bases attacked here, recruiting centers. Our media says it's not Islamic when it is. What is the rationale? What is the end game of Merkel and Hollande and Obama? What are they thinking?
I don't think they are thinking. That's the truth of it. I mean, just finishing off on that previous point, what we should do is have a blasphemy law as we always did in the past. And that was actually a sensible law. It wasn't to deprive people of the freedom to speak against other people's religion, but it did stop them from being gratuitously offensive to the point where somebody might want to turn violent. That was the reason for it. And we need to rethink that. But now on what to do about all these migrants, this is a huge problem in Europe at the moment. Of course, it's going to be a huge problem in America if Obama does try to order the states about by executive order. He will be, as you rightly pointed out in your splendid introduction, exceeding his powers under the Kentucky provision if he tries to do that. And so I hope that the governors of those states who are being robust will continue to be robust, stand firm. And admittedly, they would now eventually end up in the Supreme Court, which, of course, has become a bit of a joke. It's now got people on it who really, in no sense, are qualified to be judges that are appointed by Obama. And so the outcome there is likely to be dire. In the end, I think that what the left have got to worry about, and worry about big time in the United States, is the Republicans getting the trifecta and holding on to both houses of Congress in the 2016 election and winning the White House. Because at last, the Republicans have really quite a number of very credible candidates for the White House, which they didn't have in the last two elections. And so it could be that the Republicans take all three, in which case I hope the GOP will get up and running on this, because all they've got to do now is just slow Obama down and stop this. You've got a picture now of the tide of refugees pouring into Europe. And why has that happened? Because Europe abandoned the idea of policing its borders with its fellow European states. Only Britain, partly thanks to the existence of the English Channel and partly thanks to conservative members of Parliament and, of course, now UKIP members of Parliament who have resisted the idea of allowing our borders to be dismantled, we have retained some sort of border control, but even then they're getting in by the hundreds of thousands every year, even into the UK. And there's no doubt that our systems can't cope. We are all dangerously near to national level bankruptcy because the governments have been borrowing too much.
And isn't that the Cloward and Piven endgame, is just bring in as many people as you can, bankrupt the system into total socialism?
I think there is a very large element of let's give up and let us force totalitarianism on the people by making any other option just seem so dreadful, so that they beg to have so-called security, which in effect means losing their freedom. And that, I'm sure, is the totalitarians' game. Of course, one of the things that is interesting is that the left, which is the modern-day expression of totalitarianism, the National Socialists in Germany, followed by the Communist Socialists, now the Environmentalist Socialists. These are the three main groups of socialism. They have all killed tens of millions. The Environmentalist Socialists, after all, had the ban on DDT put in place when it was just on the point of extinguishing malaria from the world, and the numbers of people who were dying of malaria have been reduced to 50,000 a year worldwide. It's now closer to 1 million a year. It's been like that for the 40 years ever since they banned DDT. So that the environmental left have got blood on their hands just as much as the Nazis and the communists who were their predecessors had on their hands. And there is no doubt that the alliance, and it's becoming a more and more explicit alliance between the hard left and Islam movement, is very, very dangerous.